and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. Do you guys remember that lemon square motif I did a few weeks back? Well, I kind of hinted that there was a special project I had in mind for this motif, and here it is. So this week what we're doing is we're working on the lemon square pillow. So what I did here is I actually used the mitered technique. And just a little while ago, I showed you guys how to do the mitered rectangle granny as well as the traditional mitered granny square. So I thought I would do this with a solid square motif. So as you can see, I created the lemon square motif that I showed you guys just a couple weeks back. And then once I did my 4 rows of the square, I then continued on and mitered the rest of the motif. So remember, to miter, it means we're only working along 2 sides and we're building the shape up from one corner and working our way across. I just love how this came out. It's super adorable. And actually, I've been commissioned to make these for a special little someone's bedroom. So we used a little bit of that home deck yarn I love to talk about for home decor projects. So I love the fact that it's got just this simple white kind of canvas, and it really allows the yellow color to pop through. And it is somewhat reversible. So sometimes you can have the lemon kind of tilted to the right, or if you turn it this way, you can have the lemon tilted to the left. Now, one thing you're going to notice too, a little secret that I did here on this pillow, is if you turn it, I've reversed the colorway here. Now, that was mostly because I ran out of that white color that I was using, and I had just enough left to do 1 lemon in the white, and I thought it might be a kind of a cool idea to reverse the colors, and I think it's a great contrast when you see them put together. So you can stylize this any way you like, and what I did is just before I sealed off, I used some of the white to do a final finishing round, and that way when we use the yellow to sew up our panels, it would still show through. I'm so happy with how that came out. Now, so many of you really liked the lemon square, so I'm really excited, and I hope that you're going to dive into creating these pillows as well. So let's just grab our materials and let's get started creating our lemon square pillows. All right, so here are our materials. Now, you want at least 2 colors, right, to create contrast. And of course, I always think of lemons and I think of yellow against a nice white backdrop. So the yarn that I'm using, actually, you will remember this from the actual lemon square motif tutorial. For my lemon, I used what I had left over of the Bernat's home deck yarn. Now, for things like pillows, bags, jackets, this is my go-to yarn. You can't really find this in the stores much anymore, at least not the major stores like Michael's and things like that. I have been able to find it on Amazon. So I will leave a link for it in the description box down below if you're interested in using this yarn. As always, you can use any yarn you like. I just like the home deck. It's a nice mixture of like a polyester and a cotton. So it's durable, it's really easy to take care of. Now, having said that, this is just some leftover that I had. They do come in, I believe, 250 gram skeins. And the only sad thing for me is they no longer seem to come in white. So even on Amazon, I can't seem to find the home deck in white. And it was just, their white was just so beautiful and crisp. They have something like a cream color, but for me, the lemon, I just really wanted a nice white. So what I'm using here is the Loops and Threads cream cotton. You have to be careful with these, though. They do have limited runs, I noticed. So sometimes in the summer or even in the spring, they bring out these new yarns and they don't last long. So as you can see here, this one says limited time only. But you can find anything in a comparable weight. Now, they consider this a medium 4. which is pretty true to form, but I felt it would work very nicely with the home deck here, even though the home deck yarn is considered a bulky 5, okay? And the other reason why I ended up choosing this cream cotton, or creme cotton it's called, is because it had, first of all, the beautiful white color, but also it has this softness to it. And I thought for a cushion, it's just got the right feel, okay? So that's what I'm using here. You are going to need 2 balls of these for your pillow if you are using this yarn, okay? And by the way, it comes in a 150 gram ball, which will give you 296 meters or 324 yards of length, okay? And you won't need much for your lemon. Again, the home deck generally comes in 250 gram balls. So if you manage to get a white, if you manage to find the white, I think one of those skeins in the white will do you just fine, okay? So that's the yarn I'm using. And the hook size I'm using for this project is a 6 millimeter hook, also known as a J or a size 10. If you prefer, you can use a smaller hook, but I like the look of my stitches from the 6 millimeter. As always, make sure you have a handy pair of scissors and a darning needle on hand for sewing in your ends. You'll also need a small amount of a contrasting color for your leaves, right? Now you can certainly just keep the lemon motif without the leaves if you just like the ellipse shape, but I've just got some different shades of greens lying around, so I thought I'd give those a shot. You won't need much for the leaf portion. You will also need a pillow insert for your cushion. I am using a 12-inch square insert. And I also have a link down below to the pillow insert that I used for this tutorial. So let's get started. Okay, now as you can see, I've already got my lemon motif done and squared off. And the reason being is I've already done a tutorial on how to create the lemon shape and how to square it off. So first and foremost, and I may have mentioned this already at the top of the video, you're going to need to go and watch that video first. And as always, I'll leave it in the cards up there, as well as an easy link for you in the description box down below. So you'll need to watch that tutorial to create your initial square. And I have done 4 rows of squaring off my motif. From here, we are now going to create the rest of the body of our pillow using the mitered technique. So one thing you want to determine is where you would like your lemon to sit on the pillow. Would you like it to sit in the top right-hand corner of your pillow? Would you like to sit in the top left hand, or the bottom right, or the bottom left? And the reason why this is so important is because this will determine where your mitered effect will take place. So for me, I think I would like my lemon to sit in the top left-hand corner. Therefore, that means my mitering is going to happen along the bottom and the right side. So for my lemon to sit in the top left-hand corner, that means our mitering has to work downwards to our right. So now, by the way, if you want yours to sit to your left, that means your mitering is going to have to come over to the left and across the bottom and work leftwards. Now, if that is the case, what you need to do is you may need to snip off your yarn and reattach it on that corner there so that you don't have an extra row. Because if you work your way across and then start mitering here and you go back and forth, you're always going to have one extra row on the side there along the top. And just to make things easier, I would snip off your yarn and start in the top left-hand corner. Now, because mine is staying in the top left-hand corner, I'm in the perfect position to miter down and across. So that's what I'm going to take you through right now. Okay, so I have slip stitch to join, as you can see, right? And so what I'm going to do is I am going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm actually going to turn my work. So this is the row I just finished. I'm going to turn my work, and now I'm going to work my way across. So whereas in previous, we were working in rounds, we're now going to work in mitered rows, okay? So I've chained 3, I've turned my work, And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to place one double crochet into each stitch across. But what's going to be a little bit different is that I am going to work into the back loops only. So right now I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to insert my hook, hopefully you can see that, into the back loop of that next stitch. And you will notice that your stitches are going to stretch a little bit, especially if you're using this cotton cream yarn, okay? And really nice and simple, just one double crochet into the back loop of every single stitch across. Okay, just like that. And so you'll notice that this chain 3 will count as a double crochet stitch. So you can see it now just kind of sits nice evenly up there. Okay, so I'm going to let you do that. You're going to do one double crochet all the way to each stitch until you get to that corner, and I'll meet you there momentarily. Okay, and this is my last stitch of placing double crochet, and now I'm in the corner. Okay, so my work is looking something like this, and you can see that ridge is really coming through, which is lovely. Don't worry if this looks a little uneven to you right now. We are going to fix all of that stuff at the end. So see how it's dipping in? Totally normal, but do not fret. Okay, we're in our corner, the only corner we will continue to work from now on. So into the corner, we want to work 2 double crochets. Okay, then you're going to chain 1 and place 2 more double crochets back into that space. And that is how you're going to work every corner from now on, or every time you come to this corner, because it's the only corner we're going to be working on for the rest of our panel here. Okay, once you're done finish the corner, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Always remember, and I know I've said this a million times, don't forget that there is a stitch here. Now, the thing with this though is we turned our work, right? So now the stitch is no longer nestled in here. It's actually sitting to the left. And if you're ever a little bit curious about how to really identify parts of your stitch, I have a great lesson on that exact topic. I'll leave a link for both of them in the description box down below. I've done 2 versions. I've done how to identify parts of your stitch and a deeper dive into parts of your stitch. And many of you have sent me lovely comments saying how helpful you found it. So in case this is a bit confusing to you, can always refer to that video. But right now our stitches, because we're moving along the back sides of our stitches, the stitch is sitting to the left, so it's a little easier to find. Whoops, I'm not working into the full stitch. You're now going to continue to work into the back loop only. I almost forgot that. And we're just working into the back loops here just because it's going to create a really nice texture. Okay, so you're just continuing on as you were before. So now you've come around your corner. And so go ahead and finish the next side, and I will meet up with you when you are just about to work into that next corner. Okay, so I've come up to the end of my second side here, and I've just worked into my last stitch. I am going to do one more stitch into this corner space here. So I'm going to place a double crochet into that corner. But that's it. We're not trying to create a corner. We're just kind of evening out that side there. Now, just for your kind of knowledge, I now have 27 stitches going up both sides. Now, when you're working on your lemon square in particular, do not worry if you've done the same exact way I've done it. And there are many times, because the lemon is not a perfect square, there are times when I had, for example, down here, I had 25 stitches and then I'd have 24, 25 and 24. And that's a-okay. Like it's not, the lemon is not a perfect square, but we call this a squared motif. And what I did as I worked consecutive rows out is now again, I would add an extra stitch somewhere along the way so that both sides are evened out. And as it turns out, I have the exact same number of stitches on both sides. So at this point, this would have been the 5th round, which is actually only going to be a row. And I have 27 stitches and then 27 stitches. So now I know my stitch count is even. Okay, so you're done your first row, and now this is the way you're going to start every subsequent mitered row. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to turn your work. Okay, so now we're back to the front side of the pillow, and you are going to continue doing what we have always been doing. You're going to continue placing 1 double crochet into the back loops only of each and every single stitch. So remember, I'm going to turn my stitch so I can see my V's, and I'm going to go right down the center, picking up the back loop and double crocheting. So it's pretty straightforward. And we are going to be turning our work like we would a regular flat project, and you can see there. So there's the chain 3, and that represents a double crochet, and then we continue on as usual. Okay, really, really straightforward, nice and easy. A great way to practice your double crochet stitches, that's for sure. Okay, so keep going. And I'm just doing a few here so you can get the effect. So that's what we're looking for. As always, you can see a little bit here how working into the back loops creates a really pretty ridge there. So that's it for a while now. You're going to keep doing 1 double crochet into each back loop until you get to your corner. Into every corner, you'll work into the space. So it's going to create a neat little design there because we've done back loops over here, but into the corners, we've worked into the space. And it's 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. As always, some people feel more comfortable doing a chain 2. That's totally up to you. And then you continue on as usual, 1 double crochet into each back loop until you get to the end. Now here, you don't have to worry about this corner anymore because you actually have a stitch, and you want to make sure you find the top of your chain 3 to do the final stitch into. Then you chain 3, turn your work, and repeat the exact same thing over and over and over until you get the size of your pillow that you are looking for. For me, that's going to be about 11 inches square. And you always want to create your panel about 1 inch or 1/2 inch smaller than your insert. You remember, you want your insert to sit nice and firmly in there. You don't want it swimming around in the cover. So keep that in mind. Okay, guys, I'm going to set you loose, and I'll meet back up with you when I've completed my panel. Okay, so I have done a total of 9 mitered rows, and that has given me 11 inches on each side. So 11 inches across and 11 inches high. Now originally I thought I was going to do my lemon this way, and really you can work this in any way you want. You can flip it around, you can flip it this way, except this is definitely going to be the back of my work. But I realized that I like having the tip of my lemon tilting to the right. So when we go to do the leaf, I'm most likely going to place it right back up there. Now, if you're worried about whether or not you've got the right length, you just want to take your pillow here, just like I have here, and you want to place your square over it. Now, you do want your panel not to come all the way down. See how there's a gap there? You do want there to have to be a bit of a stretch. And originally I had done 10 rows, but it drooped right over. So if you do a second panel, then your actual pillow insert is gonna float around in there. So I wanna make sure that the panel will just kind of be really snug around the pillow. So 9 rows did it for me. Now I'm gonna do a finishing round so that it will have a nice finished edge, and it'll make it a lot easier to then sew the 2 panels together. So here I am, I've just finished my round. I'm gonna insert my hook here, and we're gonna keep it nice and simple. So you're gonna chain 1 and turn. And we're simply going to work a single crochet round, okay? So we're going to go right back into that same stitch and place a single crochet. And that is what we're going to do into every single stitch all the way around. So just go ahead and do that. Press pause here. And then I'm going to meet up with you when we hit our first corner. Okay, so I've come to my corner, so my single crochets are looking like that. So it just gives it a little bit more of a solid edge. And now I'm in the corner and we are going to place, whoops, I've got one more stitch there. So now we're working into the corner. We're going to place a single crochet. We're going to chain one and place another single crochet right back into that space. And as you can see, it's going to help us turn the corner there. And now we still have stitches to work into, so you have one single crochet into every single stitch as usual. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so now you can see it's a beautiful finished edge there. So keep doing that, and I'm going to meet up with you when we're ready to turn the next corner, because remember, this is a mitered corner, so all of these had stitches to work into. I just love how that back loop created that texture there. Just love that. But now what's going to happen for this stretch here where we did the mitered portion, we're going to be working into the sides of stitches. So I just want to guide you through that really quickly when we come back around. So I'll meet you back here when we're ready to turn that next corner. Okay, so I've just worked into that last stitch, and of course this is the chain 3 of the previous row. So we want to make sure that we don't miss that because it does count as one of our stitches. So into that top of the chain 3, we're going to work our corner, which is to place a single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet back into that same stitch. And that's going to help us turn the corner just like that. Okay. So now we're working down the side of our double crochet. So some rows have a chain 3 like this one. Some rows are an actual double crochet. Generally speaking, to make sure that our work looks even, you can work 2 single crochets into the side of a double crochet and still keep it looking fairly even. So we worked, technically we came around the corner. That's the first one at the top of the double crochet, sorry. So we're going to go into the second chain here. So it's kind of like the center of where the double crochet is. And we're going to work a single crochet. You want to try your best to actually work into the loops of the stitch and not into the space. When you work into the space, what happens, it starts to pull it apart, because remember, this is going to be where we're going to seam it up. And we don't really want a lot of large gaps. Even though this particular project is a little bit on the lacy side, we want to keep it consistent. So now I'm going to work into the top of the next double crochet, and it's waiting for us right there. Single crochet, and now I work into the center. So I try to nestle my hook somewhere and pick up a loop or 2 if I can. And then there's the top of the next one right there. So it's pretty straightforward if you know what to look for. This is a chain row, so I'm going to find my stitch right in there, just like that. And if you're uncertain, just stop, look at your work. As long as it's not bunching up or buckling, you are good. See what a nice finished edge that single crochet gives us? Just love that. Okay, so keep going, and then you're going to probably see a little dip happening here. I'm just going to meet up with you as we are jumping over this little dip, because I know it can frustrate some of you newer crocheters. So I'll meet you back here in a moment. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end of my mitered rows, and that's the corner from my original square motif. So I've got one more single crochet. I want to work into the center of that double there. And I'm going to work it a little bit more loosely. I'm going to pull it up a bit because I can see where it joined, it dipped down a wee bit. So by making this one a little looser, it will even out the edge a little bit more. And really now I have a stitch to work into. So I'm just going to work right into that stitch there. And now you can see it's creating a nice seamless edge. and then I go right into the next one here. And then I just go into the next stitch. Now I have stitches to work into again. So you see it was just this side of that row there where we had that happening. Okay, so now when I put my work down, you can see that it's going to straighten it out a little bit more. And don't forget that this is going to curve over an item. So if it's still dipping a wee bit, it's not the end of the world, right? Because once you sew it together, it's all going to come nicely together. So that's it for this round. I'm going to leave you to finish your finishing round. 1 single crochet into each. In the corner, it's a single, chain 1 single. And then 1 single crochet again. And then don't forget, you've got one more little chunk here where you're working into the side of your mitered edge there. And then you're gonna slip stitch to join at the end and fasten off, and your first panel will be complete. Okay, so I just single crocheted back into the very first stitch that I ever did. And I just wanna chain 1 and then slip stitch to join into that first single crochet. So that way all of my corners are nice and uniform and they've got that chain 1 there. So I'm just going to snip my yarn and fasten off just like that. So my panel is now complete. Okay, and you can block it if you like, but really, because it's going to go on a stuffed item, I don't really worry too much about it. But I'm really happy with how it came out. So the texture is looking really, really great. I love that. And now again, what you're gonna do is to do the little leaf motif. It is on the original lemon square tutorial. So if you've done your lemon square already, I'm going to assume that you have created your leaf as well from that tutorial. So I'm not gonna do that here. But again, the link will be down below. So once you've completed one panel, what you want to do is you want to create a second panel exactly the same way. Once you do that, meet me back here, and then we are going to take on seaming up our sides and stuffing our pillow and finishing off our project. Okay, so I finished both of my panels here. I'm just gonna zoom out here. Okay, and so my work looks something like this. So what you're gonna do now is we're gonna construct our pillow. Now don't worry if you see little edges like this that don't quite look perfectly even. Remember, once we seam it together and insert our pillow, that is going to disappear. So you just arrange your lemon whichever way you want. If you want, you can have them where they're kind of mirroring each other. The main thing you want to do is make sure that the wrong sides are facing each other. So that is going to be the inside of your pillow cover. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I kind of like the idea of my pillow. I've been debating what do I like to do. You can either have your lemon tilting to the left, because again, I still need to add my little leaf detail, or you can have your lemon sitting on the bottom right, which I think I'm kind of liking. So what I'm going to do is, so that no matter which side you flip it, it's on the bottom. See how it's on the top? I am just going to make sure that I turn it around so that my lemon is tilting slightly to the right anytime I turn it around. So whether it's this way or I turn it this way, the lemon is always tilting over. Now, what I recommend you doing is, if you have not done your leaf applique yet, this is the next thing you want to do. Or you can actually just leave it like this. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So for now, I'm going to show you how to seam up your pillow. So once you've decided how you want it, you want to make sure the wrong sides are facing each other. And then we want to very carefully align our stitches. Now I'm going to tell you right now, you may luck out and have the perfect exact number of stitches. And of course, that's always the goal. But remember, when we came around the sides of our stitches, sometimes it happens that we either add an extra stitch or we miss a stitch. It is not the end of the world if they're not perfectly even, okay? So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Okay, so I am actually going to seam up my pillow with the yellow yarn. Now, I actually just had a little bit left of the home deck yarn, so I did need more for my second lemon, so I did break down and order some more. I can find tons of uses for this yarn, especially things like making bags, etc. So that is the yarn I'm going to use to now seam up our pillow to create a nice little contrast. And for those of you that saw the tutorial on my sweet pea pillow, the round pillow, I did a similar thing where I had basically a white palette and then the accent color was a pink, and that is the color I used to seam it up. And I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below as well in case you're interested. So wherever you'd like your first corner to begin, so for me, I'm going to make mine right about here. Okay, and I'm going to start off actually by finding the very first stitch along the top. So in that corner there. So for me, that is going to be right here. So I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch right there. And now I'm going to find the corresponding one on the other panel. So remember we had 3 single crochets going into the corner there. I want to take on that first one. So it's going to be just like that. And that I'm pretty happy with. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow yarn. I'm going to hook it through. Notice I did not place a slip knot on my hook. I'm just going to pull it through. And then I'm going to just throw the tail over there, chain 1. I didn't put a slip knot on my hook because I just felt it was going to be a bit too bulky. But as you can see, it's nicely, securely in place. If you prefer to do a slip knot first, go for it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a simple single crochet to seam up our pillow. So I'm going to go back into that same stitch and I'm going to go through both panels. Remember, the point is we're trying to seam this up. And I'm going to pull up a loop and create a single crochet. And I'm just going to try and work over that tail, just like that. And that is what we're going to do into every single stitch. So into the next one, it's right there. And then I'm going to find the corresponding stitch in the panel behind. And I'm going to single crochet. Now, you want to be careful you don't do this too tightly because your pillow will pucker and bunch. And we do want it to sit nice and relaxed. So there's the corresponding one. And I'm going to do single crochet. And again, into the next stitch. And the corresponding stitch. And single crochet, just like that. Okay, so now you can see it's going to create a really pretty contrast there. Hopefully that's focused. This camera seems to be going in and out of focus, so I hope you can see that there. So we're going into the full stitch there, and it's just going to create a beautiful edging to that pillow. So go ahead and do that all the way until you get to your first corner. And I'm going to meet up with you there, and then I'll chit-chat about how we're going to go around our corner there, okay? Okay, guys, so I haven't quite come to my corner yet, but I can see that it looks like one of my sides is slightly shorter, and I counted, and as I thought, I have 1 extra stitch on this panel than I do on this side. And so far as you can see, that is my seamed edge. Doesn't that look great? So now I'm not going to panic. So what I need to do, I have 1 extra stitch on the back than I do on the front. So that means 2 of these stitches somewhere along here is going to go into the same stitch as the front. So I'll show you how to fix this little problem. And what you want to try and do is deduce that it's happening before you get to the very last corner. Like I said, if it's just one stitch, it really won't make a difference, but I like to kind of try and hide these things as I go along. If you were off by 2 or 3, waiting till the very end would definitely show a pucker. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to insert my hook back into the same stitch I just worked, and that's in the front panel only. And then I'm going to pick up the next stitch and single crochet. So what that does is we've used the same stitch to pull in 2 of the back stitches, and that should take care of the extra stitch along here. And now you're going to have an even number of stitches, okay? So basically, whichever side is missing a stitch, you're going to work into one of its stitches twice in order to use up the extra stitch in the back. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and then I would just proceed now as usual, 1 in the front and 1 in the back, and just continue seaming up my pillow as before. Now, as you can see, you can barely tell. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of take you through that. So go ahead and finish it, and I will meet you back there in the corner.
Well, guys, it seems I accidentally deleted the footage of me sewing up the pillow. But luckily, it was right near the end, so it's pretty straightforward. As you can see here, this is the finished pillow. And what I did in the corner is I placed 1 single crochet, chain 1, and another single crochet into that corner stitch. And then I continued along, seaming down the following side, doing the same thing in the next corner. So I ended up seaming up 3 sides before I placed my insert inside. Once the insert was comfortably in, then I finished seaming up the 4th side, and then I just simply wove in my ends, and there you have the final pillow.